So you're a people person, right? You have a care for people. Where does that come from? Like, where does that value come from?
I think about that, and I can't help but think that I became that, or I had the desire to help other people because that's what I needed for myself. I needed to give myself love and care.
Yeah.
And instead of focusing on what I needed to do for my own growth, I think I expressed it outwardly to others.
Yeah.
I had no clue that's what I was doing, but as I reflect back on it, I can't help but think that played a role.
Welcome to the Americus Podcast, where we pursue what it means to become a next level neighbor, creating a place we enjoy with the people we love. Today, I am glad to introduce to you Katie Creel. Katie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast with us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So Katie is a life coach. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to dive into what that means and how what program she walks through and how it's benefited her so much in the past year. But we also want to talk a little bit about just kind of who you are. So you're from Americus, correct? Born and raised, or just got here early?
No, born and raised.
Okay, so born and raised in Americus. So I'm new to Americus, and so I love asking people kind of their story of kind of life growing up in Americus. Things have kind of changed. Some things are still the same. So give me a little bit about your life kind of growing up in Americus, Georgia. Tell me a little bit about your family dynamics and did you have siblings, that kind of thing. So share a little bit about your life.
So with Americus, I've always actually wanted to escape.
Yeah?
I always kind of felt like I didn't belong. And I think that I just assumed everybody carried the same beliefs and the same thoughts, and they weren't similar to mine. So instead of having an open mind and like going out to try to meet other people, I just kind of separated myself.
Yeah.
But what I have learned over the years is that I was wrong. There's tons of amazing people in this town. And I feel like this town has a lot to offer. And I just didn't give it a chance.
Yeah. So did you grow up in the city? Were you kind of outside of the city a little bit?
So I grew up on Kingsway, which is in the city. Okay. And then when we were about 8, we moved to Lee Street. And then my dad lived out on Highway 19.
Okay.
Which is where I am now.
All right.
So mostly in the city, but I also spent a lot of time in the country as well.
Okay. So you mentioned kind of having this perception and this perspective of life. Tell me some of those things that you kind of just grew up and was like, do other people think this way? Did it have to do with just kind of the framework of maybe religious things, or is it just personal preferences, or where did you feel like that came from?
I feel like there were a lot of belief systems in place that did not resonate with me. I can recall hearing like racial slurs, and I did not like that. I did not believe that because someone's skin color was different than mine, that they were different from me.
How old were you at that time, you think, when you first started kind of hearing some of that?
Really young. I can remember I think it was like in middle school, and we were walking around the block, and one of my friends said, I say the N word.
Yeah.
I don't even like to use that particular language. And it takes a lot. I struggle to take up for myself. So like it took it takes a lot for me to speak up for other people, and I do wish that's something I was better at, but I think I have to get better at taking up for myself first. But I do remember at that particular age hearing someone say that, and I took up for the people that she was speaking against. And that's actually like a really proud moment of mine.
Yeah.
As a child, because...
How old were you at that point?
I would say middle school.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. But, you know, I can recall hearing certain language and certain assumptions around just through, you know, day-to-day life and not liking it and not believing it.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that. And then I also was raised Southern Baptist, and I do believe in something greater than myself. But I believe it's broader than just within the realm of Southern Baptist beliefs. So I just kind of separated myself, and I always wanted to escape, and I did at one point, and then I ended up back here.
Yeah.
And
now you're talking about like later on in life, not when you were younger, you got away and then came back.
No.
Okay. All right.
So I feel like I finally got out. I was actually married, and I wanted to take a travel assignment, so I was an adult. I think I was like 22, something like that, 23. And I did a travel assignment in California for 13 weeks. And then when I returned from that assignment, I had planned to do more of them, and I was actually going through a divorce, but then I ended up pregnant.
Yeah.
So I ended up staying
Okay.
and have a 13-year-old now.
Yeah.
But about 5 years ago, I ended up going to California. I was going to quit nursing, and I'm getting way off track. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
That.
It's fine.
So I was super burnt out, and I did not know that I could continue to work as a nurse. And I wanted to go to California because I knew they had ratio laws and a union. So I just want to see what nursing was like with those aspects in place. And then if, you know, I went out there and it didn't work, I would just quit nursing, and if not, continue. But I went out there and I loved it. So that's how I ended up where I am, or where I was in January. And I would just go work for a week and then come home for a week.
Yeah. Okay, so growing up, you knew that you kind of wanted to get out, wanted to try something different, wanted to see if there was other people more like you, maybe, you know, just kind of in that same framework. So you're going through middle school, high school. Did you know, like being in high school, went to Americus High, right? Yeah. Did you kind of know what you wanted to be able to kind of get there? Did you always think about being a nurse, or what was the kind of the first thoughts, like growing up 13, 15 years old? What did you want to be?
You know, I can remember my first thought was I wanted to be a surgeon.
Okay.
But I also did not want to go to school forever. So I ended up choosing nursing. And I think the choice just came from wanting to help people. And that just seemed like the most natural choice for me to make.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have like a burning desire, I think specifically for nursing. I think it just made sense.
Yeah. So you're a people person, right? You have a care for people. Where does that come from? Like where does that value come from? Did you kind of see that growing up, or was it just more your personality? You know, do you have a family member, a friend that you just kind of inspired you to say, yeah, I could see myself doing that, and just being a people person, helping people and caring for people?
You know, I think about that, and I can't help but think that I became that, or I had the desire to help other people because that's what I needed for myself. I needed to give myself love and care.
Yeah.
And instead of focusing on what I needed to do for my own growth. I think I expressed it outwardly to others.
Yeah.
I had no clue that's what I was doing, but as I reflect back on it, I can't help but think that played a role.
Yeah. So you're kind of your mind was kind of trying to tell you, and your body was trying to tell you, hey, this is kind of what you need, but it's self-projecting out into other people right now, and so you're trying to help other people. So nursing became kind of the path for you. When you graduated, what were your aspirations? Did you want to go to a specific school, or did you like a certain degree of school, that was very popular, or where did you end up?
So I started at GSW. I was going to get my bachelor's, and then I just really don't like school. I never have. So then I transferred to Darton, and I got my associate's degree there.
Okay, so you were here maybe a year?
Probably.
Okay, and then transferred over to Darton. Okay.
And I have gone back twice to get my nurse practitioner, but I always end up saying no.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad that I did, because I think I've saved myself a lot of time and money.
How was that move from, did you actually live in Albany, or did you just go to school in Albany and just kind of drove back and forth? Okay. What was your first job? What were you doing? Even if you had like before nursing, it was kind of like, what was your first job? What was life like then?
So my first job was actually at the fair.
Okay.
It was in high school.
What?
We had a friend, Miss Cindy Corbin. She would get us little gigs. So sometimes we would get to work the concerts, which was always fun. And then sometimes you would end up Polish sausage?
Okay.
Polish sausage,
Okay.
the little thing.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Or making funnel cakes at the
Okay.
Perry Fair. It was fun.
Yeah. So were you also helping set up and break down the stuff, or just particular, what do you call it? Vendors. Like you were just helping out with some vendors.
Up,
Okay.
and they told you where to go.
Okay. How much were you getting paid at that time, or was it free pay for them?
No, we got paid,
Okay.
and it was good. I can't remember the exact number, but I remember getting a check and being like, dang,
All right.
this is
Yeah,
good.
that's right. I can do this. That's great. So you did that. Did you also do that? How long did you do that for?
I think I just did that
For like a
1
summer?
or 2 years,
Okay.
like whenever the Perry Fair would come to town. So
Okay.
it wasn't like a regular thing.
Okay.
It was a really interesting experience, though.
Yeah.
So then I was in nursing school, and I actually was really struggling one semester. And I don't know. It was just so foreign to me, like how hospitals, everything was foreign. And I did my clinicals here, and it was when it was Sumter Regional before the tornado. And I remember going over to do my clinicals the next day at the main hospital, Phoebe, and like even the medicine vials were different. So anyways, it was totally different, and one of the instructors was just like super not nice. Like it's already super stressful being a nursing student and being in clinicals, and it's a scary environment. And she kind of just added like pressure, or I allowed her to add pressure. Anyways, I had a breakdown, and I ended up deciding to take a semester off and start work as a CNA.
Okay.
So I worked at Sumter Regional as a certified nursing assistant.
Okay.
And then finished up with school. And that was like really the best thing I could have done, because it just got me familiar with that environment and with the terminology.
More like boots on the ground and Okay.
I wish that I would have done that at the beginning. It would have been helpful. And I really enjoyed that job. I felt like I could spend more time with the patients. And I actually, if I could do it, if I could have lived off a CNA income, I would have chosen that route over a nursing route.
Okay, yeah. Because, like you said, you get to spend more time with people. That's good. So you end up at the main, or after clinicals and things like that, after you do the when you go back, do you end up in Americus, or do you end up in Albany?
No.
Or do you end up in California?
In Albany.
Okay.
So I decided when I graduated that I wanted to work at Maine Phoebe because I felt like I would get more experience there. So I did that for about 2 years.
Okay.
And then I took one travel assignment to California, which was 13 weeks. Then I came home. I ended up in Columbus.
Okay.
And then also Cordele. I've kind of been all over the place.
Yeah.
And then Atlanta.
Okay. So going back to growing up in Americus and saying, I want to kind of get out and see some different perspectives. So you were college, Albany, California, Columbus. Did you get to see a little bit of what you were hoping to see, or did you still feel yourself disconnected from kind of the general framework of community? Like where was your headspace at that point? Were you getting more excited about the potential of different environments, or what did that look like for you?
Each place had something different to offer. But ultimately, I feel like I felt disappointed in our healthcare system as a whole. I feel as if there's a tendency to give a prescription and just kind of put a Band-Aid over everything and never get to the root. Yeah. And I also understand that in the hospital setting, there may not be time for that, but I did feel uncomfortable being a part of that.
Yeah, yeah. Would you say, kind of stepping into that, would you say that it's more, are things more tuned to trying to deal with symptoms than actually deal with the problem or the root cause of certain things, whether it's a disease or something like that, where you just feel like you're just kind of patching it and you don't really know, like, I feel like that we could figure this thing out on a deeper level, but what we just continue to do is continue to just prescribe things just to get them by, but it's still going to be there. Is that kind of what you're describing a little bit as far as medicine and even practices, like, hey, go home and do this? That may not be the best thing for them. Is that kind of what you're describing?
Yeah, I think so. I think about, the last 12 or 13 years I was in the ER, and I guess what I saw was a lot of people who had a lot of physical complaints, and we couldn't find the problem. But when you talk to people, most of them are stressed out, or most of them had something big happen in their life. So I do feel like emotions present as physical symptoms, especially when you do blood work and imaging and you can't find the cause.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like that is addressed enough. And I do understand in that setting there's not time. And also, a person has to do their own work to get to the root of that, and that's hard to do as well. Yeah. So I think that's actually how I ended up on the life/health coaching journey, is because I wanted to help bridge that gap. Okay. So you feel like it's, you would describe it as not a holistic approach to healthcare. That's right. Is that there's something missing. We're doing what we can here, but we're not able to attach it to the other areas of life or whatever it is. Like you said, what's causing these things? Sometimes people don't even know, and so yet we're here, and so patterns and mindsets that just continue to pile on each other, and then your body physically starts to respond to these things as well. And so you come into the hospital, you just want your body to stop, or your head to stop. But there's also parts of that where there's patterns where they could also help if you step into those as well. So, okay, so you're doing that. Would you say you found some joy in that, of being able to, did you get to see some success in any of that? And you're like, just some success stories that you can look back and say, over the last, so many years, I really got to enjoy seeing this person, or anything like that? I do recall one time, it was when I worked in Columbus. I would work in the ER and then also in the ICU. And we had this guy who came in And like as soon as he got on the stretcher, he went into VTAC, and we were able to help him.
Now, what is VTAC?
It's just when your heart's it's a lethal rhythm, and your heart is just like beating super fast, and blood's not pumping like it should. But we were able to help him, and the next day I came to work in the unit, and I saw him sitting up in a chair. And that was like the first time that I had seen that type of outcome. Like we do things that save people's lives, but a lot of time we don't see the end result because they leave us and go to another area, right?
Yeah.
So it was just really nice to see that. And I think it would be beneficial if there was actually a way to follow patients through, so people in the ER could like go to a bulletin somewhere and see, oh, this patient is here, so we could see the success stories, because we see people die, go home, or go to another floor.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know.
Yeah. That, you feel like that kind of put a toll on you too, right? Just kind of.
Tremendously.
And maybe just the group itself, just all of your stories are very difficult stories to share or to tell or to be a part of, and then go home and then just try to eat your dinner.
Yeah.
And have normal conversations. So how did you deal with that?
I dealt with that in a lot of different ways. One way was just shutting my soul off. I got to a point where I just didn't feel things that I should have felt. You just get so used to seeing people die and people being in pain and suffering that it's like, if you're going to survive this environment, you do have to really just shut a part of yourself off. So I did that. And I also found myself...
How long do you feel like you did that for?
Oh,
I mean, months, years?
No, years.
Okay.
I was not like that when I first started working in the ER. But I would say, and I'm not good with time, but maybe 2 years in, it was kind of just like, it was almost like I felt dead on the inside. I really did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that. I mean, there were other things that I was not dealing with in my own life. But I do recall just like walking around one day at work, and I was still able to be kind to people, but I couldn't give them what they needed.
Yeah.
It was really horrible.
Yeah. That seems like it's very difficult to be able to have to process alone. So you used the term burnout. We talked about this a little bit even before the podcast. Do you kind of have a definition or a way you describe this idea? I hear it a lot. Even being in the church world, pastors deal a lot with burnout here. Very, very, very recently, you hear that a lot, that pastors are going, and then they start burning out. And so that term, I get to hear that term a lot as well. So give me your thoughts and descriptions of like what burnout means to you, and when did you start to experience something like that in your life?
So burnout to me is what I just spoke of. I think that's like I don't know, when you feel like your soul and when you feel dead on the inside, I feel like that's kind of beyond burnout. I don't know. But I think there's different levels to it. How would I describe my definition of burnout? I think when you no longer have the ability to have compassion for others, you're definitely burned out. I'm trying to think of like the earlier stages because I feel like it's sneaky.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really do.
Yeah. Share any symptoms that you would say, like we would call them symptoms, or maybe even some things that you recognized early on that was leading to something like burnout. So.
I think that's a really good question, and I think that I really need to take time to look back at that because I do know there were early signs. There had to have been, but I just can't recall. Like, what sticks out in my head the most is like where I was at my worst.
Yeah. So we'll just share a little bit about maybe that, or at least what led you to turn from trying to care for others and then recognizing, wait a minute, like I need to start caring for me, and how, when did that shift happen? Did that kind of happen at the same time, you would say?
I would say not. I felt dead on the inside for years. And somehow I just kept going. I think it's because I didn't think I had a choice.
Yeah.
And I knew that I needed to change. I think the shift happened. I had multiple shifts. The first one that happened was I was suicidal, and I just knew that it wasn't an option for me because I have a son, and I also have people that love me. So as much as I wanted to end my life, I could not intentionally put others through that much pain.
Let me stop you right there. What do you think? Because I think many people probably have some of these thoughts. Did it look like on the outside? Could someone look at Katie's life and go, oh, Katie's having those thoughts? Or did it look like, well, she's a hardworking woman, she's got kids, family, everything's good. And that was part of the tension too? Or, was it like, no, my life was super messy and it was just being exposed and I was just trying to process it all? Because I think sometimes when we think about people having those thoughts, it's like, well, it's the person that's probably on the side of the street, it's probably thinking about it. But is it always?
Absolutely not. Like, I was like a master at covering it up, 100%. And that also had a lot to do with my burnout. To put this mask on is exhausting. So I would say there were indicators, like on my days off, I would be drinking. Like, I would go sit on my porch and just drink. And it wasn't like I was getting completely sloshed. There were times that I did. But like when I had my son, I would just have a couple of beers on my front porch. But if I was by myself, and he was not around, or I was out at a bar with a friend, I would drink a lot. But you would see the pictures of those like on social media. And I would be smiling. And unless you were there and witnessed my behavior, you would probably think she's pretty damn happy. And even like during that time, I did some traveling. Like, I did a habitat trip, and also I did a missions. I was doing a little bit better when I did another trip to Nepal. I can't remember the name of the group, but I was struggling then too. But if you just were looking at photos or outside looking in, more than likely you would have no clue what was going on inside.
Do you feel like those things, like these trips and maybe just getting up and going to work, do you feel like that was just naturally happening as you were feeling that burnout and feeling that darkness? Or do you feel like some of those stuff was you trying to patchwork it? Like, I'm going to go do this trip because I'm going to try to fix it. I'm going to go do this because I'm going to fix it. Or I just need to continue to do this because or was it just, I wasn't even thinking that. I was just doing what I do and it wasn't getting any better.
I think what I was doing, honestly, was avoiding healing myself. Like, I was trying to heal everyone but me. I really do. And I love to travel, so that's a draw. But
so you weren't running to something, you were actually running away from something.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. So, all right. So let's kind of get into a little bit of how that kind of shaped you and molded you to get to this idea of, okay, I want to pursue working on me. When did that spark? When did you start? What was that process like for you?
That has been a really long process. I would say I probably started the process about 5 years ago. I'm not good with time, though, to be honest. But I would say I probably started about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And the first 2 of those, I think I thought that I was healing.
Was there anything that happened 5 years ago that was just like, all right, I really need to put some more willpower to this, think through it a little bit more? Is there anything that comes to your mind that's like, yeah, something needs to change?
Yeah, I think it was just knowing that I could not continue this way.
Okay.
And that something had to change.
Okay. Was there anybody that was with you that was like, hey, Katie, kind of noticed a few things. I love you. Hope things are going well. Or do you just feel like, no, from the very beginning at this point, it was just me, just trying to process all these things? Or did you have people around you at the time that was kind of noticing some things, or just wanted to encourage you to continue to move forward?
Well, I think most people probably did not know at all what was going on internally. My sister did call me out on some of my behaviors multiple times, and it really made me mad, and I did not listen. So I was called out. I think I just had to figure it out for myself, if that makes sense. And I do know that one of the things that really made me want to get it together was when I discovered that Luke, which is my son, was not listening to my words, but he was learning from my actions.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I discovered that, I can just remember my jaw dropping and being like, I got to get it together.
Yeah. How old was he at the time? Probably what, 5, 6, 7, somewhere around in there?
Older than that.
Okay.
I wish I would have known more when he was younger. We were on a trip. Him and my family, my sister and her kids came to see me in California, and we went to Lake Tahoe. And I can remember, I think I pulled a limb back, and it ended up hitting him. And so then somehow we switched areas in the trail, and he did the same thing that I had just done.
Yep.
And that was the moment that I was like, oh my gosh, he is just doing what I'm doing. And that's what we do as kids. So anyways, that was not that long ago. That was probably 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're coming to this realization, trying to process this new perspective of, all right, I need to work on me a little bit. What were those options in your mind? Okay, I need to do something that's different. Where did you go? What were the categories? Because there's different paths that people will take at that moment of like, all right, I need to do something. Some people take kind of the more religious path, like, okay, I'm going to go to church. I'm going to try to figure this thing out, or you know what, I'm going to go ahead and start reading these books, or I'm going to go ahead and start following this person. 5 years ago, people began to get really influential on Facebook and this different media. So like what were your categories, and then what did you end up kind of pursuing?
I tried a lot of different paths. The first path that I tried was the psychedelics. I did a large dose of mushrooms, which I've never done before. But I had someone with me. That was about 5 years ago. And I chose that method because I did not want to get on antidepressants. And it was a very beneficial experience for me. But it totally reset my brain from this negative story to a more positive shift. So it did reset my brain. But what I didn't do with that reset was look inward and check myself.
Okay.
So I did have some behavior changes and some different thought changes, but I never dug in there.
Okay.
So fast forward 2 years, I'm like, okay, well, I don't really want to do the psychedelics again because I don't feel like I'll be able to function as a normal human on this planet if I do. Because it really just opens up something. So I was like, that's not an option. So I went down a religious path. I went down just a spiritual path. I also started on anti-anxiety medicine. And then I think the most beneficial one was I finally looked at the things I was so scared to look at, which was myself.
Yeah. So what was some of that first experience? Anything, was there something that you read or heard that's like, hey, go ahead and start writing down some things about yourself, whether those, truths about yourself, lies about yourself? I would assume that that's kind of some of the patterns that you're describing. Did you start journaling during this time? Did you just start writing? What got you to start doing this internally? What does that mean to you?
Okay, so when I say internal work, it means spending time in reflection and instead of blaming others, looking at what role I played in it.
Okay.
And that's really it. That was the huge thing, was like looking at my behavior and how I contributed to this situation and what role I played. Another big thing that was it was a really huge shift for me was my ex-husband. We did not have good communication during the divorce, and it was very unhealthy on both our parts. But he got sick, and he is dead now, but he sent me a message, and he apologized for his behavior and said some really nice things to me. And it was so interesting because it was through his apology that I was able to see how my behavior affected him. I never took responsibility for what I did to him. And somehow that just like totally shifted. And once I saw like all the crap that I did to him and acknowledged that I'm not this person I thought I was. Perfectionist Patty. I then started looking in other areas, and I was like, oh my God. It's hard. It's hard to look at things about yourself that are disappointing and that you don't like and that you've judged in others but exist in you. That's a big one. So I don't know. And I spend a lot of time, quiet time. I meditate a lot, which isn't always quiet. Actually, there's a lot of chatter. But I allow space for things to come up. And I feel like I receive a lot of guidance from what I don't know. But I do believe there is a spiritual element to all of us. And I do believe we can receive guidance and love and comfort if we believe that it exists and we ask for it. There is something greater that's happening.
I mean, that's...
I don't know how to explain it really, but...
No, it's good because there are. I mean, we come from a place where, our minds are so powerful, and I believe that we are story-formed people, which is why stories work so well for us. I read a really good book called, it's actually called The Other Half of the Church, but it just describes the right brain activity. It spends the whole time just describing the right brain functions more in stories and nonverbal things. And we're formed by that. And then the left brain begins to work and begins to think critically about those things. So the moment you start thinking, your right brain has already done the work. And so you don't even know that it's happening. And so when things happen to our lives and we begin to like think through them, and the actions and the attitudes that we have are based on the stories that have already been formed in us to say, well, I receive it that way. And so therefore I will think of it this way. And so really wrestling with how God created our brains and why he created them that way, and then being able to really dive into that. It takes a lot of introspection, takes a lot of time. I was going to ask you, because you described, just trying to deal with a lot of your internal attitude and actions. Did they manifest themselves more like in a passive way where people didn't know that you were kind of that way, but you just kind of kept storing it up? That was kind of eating you up, like, man, or did it come out sometimes and like, no, like people would say, like, don't get on Katie's nerves because, it'll come out. What was that? Yeah. What did that look like? How did it actually?
I think that it was very pushed down. Like, okay, someone could do something to me that I didn't like, and instead of like speaking up and saying something, I would just smile or laugh and then walk away.
Yeah.
I have thousands of stories like that. And some of the things that I've laughed at that people have done to me are horrific.
Yeah.
It's really, that bothers me a lot. Not so much for myself anymore because I'm trying to improve that, but for other people who experience that.
Yeah.
But there are moments where I explode. Like, I can think of quite a few times where I would like yell at my son.
Yeah.
And reflecting on it, it would be like, A, that was unnecessary. B, like, what are you creating in him when you do that? What are you showing him? And C, is that healthy?
Yeah.
And so I have had many times during parenting where I've just feel like I was saying sorry all the time. And it might not even be like yelling. It might even be my tone, like he would say something and my tone would be off. It wouldn't even be related to him. It would be because I'm stressed out about something. But what I've learned is I'm doing the best I can with where I'm at. B, I'm acknowledging my imperfections and I'm trying to do better. I'm teaching him and showing him what it is to be human and that it's okay, and forgiveness. And there was one other point, but I lost it.
Yeah, no, that's good. That word forgiveness is very powerful. What does that mean to you? Like, how do you utilize that for yourself or for others? What is that?
I think forgiveness is huge. I think forgiveness of self is where it starts, honestly. Because once you're able to forgive this has been my experience anyways, as I have been able to be kinder to myself and forgive myself, I have found it a lot easier to extend that to others.
Yeah. No, that's so you have taken this and you've kind of given it an opportunity to become a life coach. So that's in the last kind of 2 years you've been kind of on this journey, and then the last year you've kind of gone through a program and then got certified. So tell us a little bit about that journey now, kind of coming into this. Okay, self-realization, I need to step into this. Tell us a little bit about the last year of your life.
The last year. Can I just start with since January?
That's great.
Okay. So January, I was at work and I was looking around and I just knew I have felt called to coaching. And I don't know how it's going to show up and how it's going to work out, but I have felt a pull to teach people about self-awareness and self-discovery, because I don't want anyone to suffer the way that I suffered. And I also want, in general, for us as a world to try to eliminate this perfectionism and to eliminate, like, hidden sides of ourselves. Like how I spoke about when I get upset or irritated, sometimes it'll come out by me yelling with my son. I feel like there's something in me that feels like by me sharing things that I'm not proud of or things that I would naturally, as any human would, want to hide.
Yeah.
But I feel like by me sharing these things gives other people safety and space and an understanding that it's okay to be how you are and to be who you are, but to learn to embrace who that person is and to not be mean, but to just try to do better and try to learn, which will then extend to everyone else they're around.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good, I mean, the idea that, everyone is, the world that we live in is very broken. I mean, we can all agree to that to some degree. I mean, even with my children growing up, at 2 years old, I'm telling them mostly what not to do because, they always find themselves just kind of grasping for things. The list goes on, whatever the list is, they have the natural tendency to not do whatever it is that I said, even if it's good for them. Don't eat that cake. They're like, oh, okay, I'm not, or whatever it may be. And so we feel that tension. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know why things are broken. We don't even know why we're broken. And coming to that realization that I need something, outside of myself to help me to deal with this. Like what is there that's available to me so that I can get some healing. And so it's very important that we get to that place. I just did a few weeks ago, I was talking a little bit about Jesus meets this man at the pool of Bethesda, and he's been there for 38 years. He's been lame for 38 years. And he asked him this question. He says, do you want to be healed? And the idea here is it's not just, hey, do you want to be healed from this physical element, but do you really want to be whole? And for that guy, kind of the conversation, it was a very short conversation, but for that guy, 38 years, he kind of got comfortable with where he was. And I think that's times, this is what we're describing is, when we come to this realization, like, do I need to be comfortable or do I really want to be healed? Do I really, because I know what this looks like. I know what this pain looks like. I know what this hurt looks like. But there's an offer on the table. But I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that jump looks like. And this is what he's offering. And we've got to wrestle with, hey, do we really want it or we kind of want to stay where we're at? And so you've got to wrestle with that. And that's kind of this idea, okay, all right, healing is something that we all need. And it's hard to embrace that because what you're saying is there's something that I have to work through. And it is difficult, whether it's small or big, your own mind, where your mind goes. And so those things are really, really important. So your aim is to find people that are kind of just going through this stage of their life. Tell us a little bit about the 8-week kind of program that you're kind of working on. What is it called?
So I teach an 8-week program, and one is for adults, one is for corporations, and one is for kids. And basically, it is a self-awareness program. And it's just kind of like 8 weeks you go on a journey of self-exploration and just observing yourself and getting to know different parts of yourselves, like your critter brain, or that negative self-talk. Sometimes it's referred to like the voice of judgment versus the voice of wisdom. I also teach within that course different tools to kind of help self-regulate, like breathing exercises, meditation. And I think how I ended up doing this particular course, and this is something that happens to me all the time, and I absolutely love it, is I was at work, and I put a sign up, and I was just saying that I was struggling, and I was wondering what other nurses did to help enjoy their time while they're at work. Because I had exhausted all methods.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working. But what I found was nobody really had any answers. I got like food and I got a lot of love and support, but nobody had a solution. And I was like, that is really interesting. So then I was like, what is the solution? Like, what is it? And I'm always asking questions like that. But anyways, that's when a month or two later, I was offered this free course that I now teach. But I took that course and I applied the tools in my personal life and in my work life, and everything shifted. I realized like a lot of my misery was my own fault, and it had a lot to do with my thoughts. I learned how to regulate my nervous system so I wasn't like constantly in panic mode, which I had spent like my whole life in. It helped me with judging not only others but myself. So it just being present and mindful with patience, like it was a game changer.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing to say, like, because I feel like these are things I should have been doing all along, but I wasn't. You know, like I would be in a room with the patient and I would be thinking about the 50 other things I needed to do and trying to figure out which one I needed to do first. But they feel that. And when I stopped all that, because I thought this would make me get the work done faster, right? But what I learned was when I was present with people and just calmed down, everything was fine. And it was, I can just remember like walking around that ER and it was like a level 1 trauma center, and COVID was happening, and I found peace even when all this chaos was going on, and I was like, wow.
Yeah. That's very impactful. You got, one of the things that we do here just within the podcast is just reminding ourselves to be, good neighbors, to be what we call next level neighbors, and being present with people is so important, and not thinking about the 10 next things. And if we can get even back to that, just in our personal lives, with just out and about, just recognizing that people are there, and people are going through a lot, and you have no idea what they're going through. I mean, you can't stop for every single person, but there are moments where, you'll see somebody and it's just that time. And so I think it's really important to be present as much as possible. That's being a good neighbor, is someone who's present and just willing to be there, and has that open posture of, hey, you might not want to talk today because you're just taking out the trash, but just know, whenever you're ready to talk, I'd love to spend some time with you. So that's really huge. Well, let's talk a little bit about, even in light of that, just talking about Americus. And talking a little bit about the future of Americus. When I moved into Americus last year, I felt, just initially, I'm not from the area, so I'm like, okay, there's a little bit of buzz here. It's a nice little area, small town. Everyone kind of knows everybody, so that feels good. But then there's even been some like things that, whether it's work related or new businesses, like there's a buzz that's like, hey, Americus has the potential to like grow and things like that. But you being from Americus, looking to the future of Americus, whether you're here or not, right? You want to stay. What are some things when you think about the future of Americus that you would like to see take place for it to be healthy? And
I have always felt like Americus has a ton of potential. I really have. And I do want to say that it took me leaving here to learn to appreciate the things about America. Like I do. I love Americus now. I love the small town.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What I feel like, I don't know. I feel like we need to just bring more people in. I don't know how you do that, but I feel like it's going to happen, to be honest, because people are trying, I feel like, to move to this slower pace living. So the answer to your question is I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I think having more people here, I think is, and then you've got, then just trying to figure out. I think I asked someone here in this city, what is kind of a common goal that everyone can kind of get around, and I think Americus is anywhere between 15 and 17,000 people. When someone just mentioned, like, I'd like to see, let's say, 20 to 25,000 people. Okay, well, it's a great goal, right? That kind of gives us, okay, well, what we need: infrastructure, businesses, all that kind of stuff, apartments, like, how do you get people here? But yeah, I mean, this city can thrive. It has a lot of opportunities for people to come and hear the history of it. I'm really excited about even the historic colored hospital that's being changed into a museum, from what I heard. And then they'll have an amphitheater over there. But then there will be another, the Brown Park that's coming, which I'm really excited about. And they're going to have an amphitheater there as well. So it seems like they're trying to put some things together, and businesses are coming in. So definitely have a lot of potential for that. In light of kind of whatever that future is, what are some things that you want to see just in everyday people as you meet them, as you talk with them? What are you hoping for them? Even if you get a chance to, like, some coach, kind of what's your pitch to people when they're asking, like, hey, I want to be a part of what you're doing. How do you kind of share that with them to kind of get them ready?
I have a hard time verbalizing what I do, and I also have not been able to figure out how to make people want to do this work. And I've thought about that a lot because I've had a lot of struggles with marketing and sales, and it's stuff I got to work through. So the conclusion that I came to was just to show people, show up as the best version of myself, and let that attract and draw people in who are ready for a change, and to know that I can provide a safe container for them to show all parts of themselves, and know that I will not judge them, because I cannot judge them.
What would you say if someone is probably looking for a life coach? What are some ingredients, characteristics? Like, let's say someone's trying to process that. Like, why would I need a life coach? What are some things that you would say, hey, if you're doing this or thinking this way or a part of this, you probably need a life coach, whether that's me or someone. Consider that. What are some markers that helps people to process? Because they might hear life coach, like, is that like a counselor? How do I know I need a life coach?
I think that and there are different types of life coaches, or coaches for everything. But I feel like if you're looking around and you're really not digging the life that you're living, you're bored, there's no joy, you're meant for more, but you don't know what it is. I think those would be great indicators that you could benefit from a life coach. So I would say that if you're ready to kind of peel back some layers and take some actions, coaching is really well, because it is very action driven. And I think that might have been part of the holdup with therapy, is like you go to therapy, you talk for an hour, but then you don't meet again for another month. And so it's like, so for me, I think the big difference was like the actions that you take, like whether it's you meditate for 1 minute a day, or journaling for 10 minutes a day, or doing deep breathing throughout the day. When you feel yourself that you're about to lose it, instead of losing it or eating a chocolate chip cookie, you take some deep breaths.
Yeah, that's right. Stay away from the cookies. They're too good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and step in. We're going to kind of get ready to kind of follow up and kind of finish up on a few things. But we always love to do rapid fire questions at the end. It gives us a chance to get to know you a little bit more on a personal level. And so it's just it's good to get to know somebody from just smaller questions as well. So let me ask you this particular question. When you think about your time and your scheduling and your kind of your pattern of life, at what time of day do you get your best work done?
Between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Is that because it feels like everything's quiet and you can get it done and no one's like calling you or texting you? Yeah, that's good. All right. With this life coaching and being an RN for a while and then retiring from there, what occupation would you like to try outside of what you're already doing?
I would love to travel the world and study spirituality in different cultures and create a book where I just kind of have cool photos and then little blogs about each different one. Yeah,
like little descriptors and things like that. All right. Yeah, I just got back from Israel and
cool.
did some traveling there, and hopefully I'll be able to go to Turkey here in the next few years. So it's a really cool place. It's yeah. I'm really looking forward to that. So, what about? Do you have a favorite activity, family activity, or friend activity that you like to do? What are you into when you think about activities?
When I think of activities, I think about being in nature. And I think about art, and I think about exploring areas that I've never been.
All right. That's good. If you could eliminate one thing from your daily routine, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good one. If I could eliminate one thing from my daily routine. That's a good question and very hard.
Yeah.
Huh. I feel like maybe this would have been easier a while back, but I've done a lot of work to try to make things that I don't like enjoyable.
Yeah.
So I bring it.
I gotcha.
So I don't know.
Okay.
What comes to mind is make my bed, but I don't mind making my bed. I actually enjoy that process.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Having to clean up the house.
There
I
you
don't
go.
do that daily, so.
Yeah, that's right. Daily. Yeah, that's right. Okay, if you could be on a reality TV show, which one would you choose and why?
I don't really know. I know Bravo has like the housewives.
Okay.
I don't think I'd want to be on that.
Yeah.
Survivor.
Oh no, I definitely don't want to be.
Yeah. Do you like the home improvement shows or like buying a new house or any like me and my wife love those shows like people trying to buy houses, renovate houses. Are you into that?
I don't know. Is there one where they like just travel and hang out and get to know
sure
people?
of it. Yeah.
That would be the one.
What is it? The Great Race or the Big Race or something like that?
Race.
The Amazing Race. You could do that. Just travel up as fast as you can. That might be really cool. All right. Do you have a favorite restaurant here in Americus or anywhere?
Do I have a favorite? I have such a hard time with favorites because.
Or give me your top three. How about
Top
that?
3.
Yeah,
okay.
top 3.
So here, or just world?
Here or anywhere, yeah.
Anywhere. I'll just stick with here.
Okay.
So I really am a fan of La Hacienda.
Okay.
I'm really a fan of Little Brothers Bistro, and I'm really a fan of Sweet Georgia Bakery.
Nice. Good places. Absolutely. All right, last question. What do you do to relax?
I do a lot of different things to relax.
Okay.
Artwork helps me relax. Painting, drawing, scribbling. Meditation helps me relax, although sometimes I can get pretty restless in that space. But when I'm in a good spot, meditation helps me relax. Breath work, stretching, yoga.
Do you remember the last thing that you painted?
Yes, it's a dog, and it's on my table right now. I like to
Awesome.
paint people's animals
Okay.
when they pass.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I don't have pets, but it just feels special to be able to give somebody
Yeah.
something that they love.
That's great. That's great. No, I love that. Well, Katie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, sharing a little bit of your story, what you're doing now. And as we step into the future, whether that be the next 5 minutes or 5 days or 5 years, I'm glad to get a chance to get to know you as a neighbor here in Americus. And hopefully when we see each other, obviously we'll just continue our conversation. So thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you. It was fun.
All right. You did great.
Did I? You know what I'm worried about?
What did you worry about?